Hi, my name is Silenze Esquivel Benjamin. My pronouns are they, them, theirs. I am a student, as Jesus says, in Natural Resources and Environmental Science. I'm a sophomore. I am from Costa Rica in the United States. I have a parent from each of those countries. And so today I will be talking a little bit about changing the climate on sustainability. So basically the way we address sustainability, how we are talking about sustainability, and basically our attitudes and behavior of sustainability. And so that will be the general topic. And pura vida, pure life. The motto of a small country in the heart of the Americas with half the population of New York City. We are a country with vast numbers of species and diverse ecosystems. Though we are 0.0% of the Earth's surface, we harbor 6% of the Earth's biodiversity. I grew up in a place where I learned to wake up to the sound of our state bird, Esquivel. I could run around my family's farm, picking guavas and bananas whenever I pleased, or even spend hours at the creek with my little sister and scavenge around for ancient pieces of broken pots from previous indigenous habitants. I had such an unusual, adventurous childhood, one would say. Not everyone can say that they had a volcano for their backyard. My love for the wonders around me sparked concern when I started to learn about how already, when I was a child bathing underneath the waterfalls, the beauty had already begun to disappear. Already, species like the golden toad in 1989 and many more are threatened or endangered of extinction. Those included are the giant anteater, the jaguar, sea turtles, ocelots, and many other beautiful creatures. ¿Por qué será? I asked my parents as a child, any child would. Why might this be? From my nature-loving parents, books, and teachers in my life, I learned about how deforestation, greenhouse gases, and many other kinds of human activity related to climate change was starting to erase some of the fragile biodiversity in Costa Rica that Costa Rica harbored for centuries. Climate change has been affecting our atmosphere since the dawn of the Industrial Revolution by emitting greenhouse gases from fossil fuels and large-scale animal agriculture. To understand climate change, we first need to understand that our atmosphere has had greenhouse gases before the Industrial Revolution and have acted as a blanket to trap in heat. Without that atmosphere, that heat, life as we know it would not exist at all today. However, once we started emitting more greenhouse gases like CO2 and methane, we have begun to warm up our planet faster than its natural climate cycle. The concentration of CO2 in the atmosphere has already exceeded climatologists' suggested limit of 400 parts per million to 411 parts per million. Scientists have also suggested that the planet is more stable at a consistent 1.5 degrees Celsius, and to exceed 2.0 would mean catastrophic disasters. We are already at 1.8 degrees Celsius, and to avoid catastrophes enhanced by climate change, we would have to peak our CO2 emissions by 2020. If you have any doubts or suspicions about climate change, you should know that 97% of scientists who studied and published peer-reviewed papers on climate change have determined that it is real and caused by human activity. What would this mean, you might ask, for humans? Maybe you don't really care about parrots and polar bears, but I'm guessing you care about health, food security, water security, and world peace. However, all of those things are at stake because of it. We are losing clean water, more diseases are showing up, deserts are growing, and that means that those most affected by the effects will be migrating to countries with resources. Countries may also go to war when fighting for resources that they need. Now that we have that in mind, where do we go from here? As people from the U.S., we are devouring resources at the expense of communities of color in the U.S. and around the world. Our addiction to consumerism is hitting the faces of those who have done little to contribute the problem. This will only hit us back down the road when natural disasters and wars over resources strike us. We as people in positions of power and privilege have the responsibility to create significant structural changes in our society and politics. We are responsible. Now, what I'm not proposing is simply creating changes in our lifestyle. I think it is great that we bike reused bags or bring our reusable Tupperwares to event to avoid creating trash and such. I think that if you already do that or are interested in making those changes, go ahead and make them. However, what I want to propose is that each of us step up and become leaders as citizens on this planet Start getting involved in community and in our politics. Good leaders contribute to their communities and help make change through programs and politics. We need to change the way we approach climate change and stop ignoring what is at stake. Indiana in particular, comparably to other states, is one of the lowest on environmental policy. Just last year in 2017, the Senate passed a bill that phased out net metering, which required utilities in the United States to pay in the state to pay solar users for excess energy created from their solar panels. Indiana is the only state to have passed a law like this, which only places more barriers on progress of mitigating climate change effects. On top of that, Indiana, through the House of Representatives, passed a law signed by then Governor Pence in 2016 to ban communities' ability to ban plastic bags. Bloomington in particular had been working through grassroots efforts to decrease plastic bag use in their community and implement a policy on plastic bags. Though a simple step towards a sustainable society, we have only gone backwards by imposing that law. Individual changes are not enough to significantly reduce the damage we have done and the damage we will see in the future. We need people to vote. We need people in power to care about the planet and understand all the economic and environmental consequences of not taking action. We need politicians to understand that rolling back on policies designed to minimize environmental damage in our rivers and air will disproportionately affect the health and the unwealthy of our ecosystems. Look to Costa Rica for role models leading by example. Our new president, Carlos Alvarado Quesada, plans to move Costa Rica to be the first carbon neutral country by 2021. We need to vote. We need to ask questions to our politicians running for midterms this fall. We need to raise our voices loud and clear so that they know that this is of utmost importance to us. We need to understand that we can't solve other issues in our society in the midst of an unhealthy planet. If you want to be involved and show that you care, join one or two of the 20-plus student organizations and the West Lafayette Go Greener Commission focused on sustainability. Be a part of the voices demanding that West Lafayette and Lafayette create an ordinance to address climate change and switch to renewables. Be a part of the voices who are pushing Indiana, one of the worst states at working on environmental issues, to create change. If a small country without the wealth and resources that the U.S. possesses can do it, there's no reason for us to not step up and be a part of the change. The change in our attitude, mentality, and culture of tackling environmental issues is essential for us to progress. Join Costa Rica in fighting to conserve our biodiversity, to conserve our pura vida.